Welcome to another episode of The Chairman's Perspective. I'm your host, Willie Brooks, Chairman of the Shelby County Commission. I'm joined today by my friend Mark Yates, TVA Regional Vice President for the Western Region. We have a ton of information, so sit tight. We'll be right back here on The Chairman's Perspective. Again, this is Willie Brooks, Shelby County Commission Chairman. With me today is Mark Yates with TVA, the Vice President for the Western Region. Mark, before we get into our discussion, why don't you tell my audience who you are, how long you've been in Memphis?
Sure. Native Memphian. Well, first of all, thank you for having us on, Mr. Chairman. Delighted to be here to have an opportunity to tell our story. But who I am, I'm the West Region Regional Vice President. And I'm a native Memphian. Bethel Grove, Whitehaven, Cordova, Bellevue, Central High School. Everybody in Memphis wants to know where you went to high school. Central High School.
That's unfortunate. I went to Manassas.
Manassas, all right, all right.
The oldest school in Shelby County.
There you go.
All right.
A great, fine institution,
Yes.
Fine, upstanding. So education, went away to school, came back and have worked in Memphis off and on my whole career. And so by training, I am finance, economics, banking, also have deep dive into public policy and government. Have been a chief of staff in the United States House of Representatives for a young congressman named Harold Ford Jr. When he first got elected in '96. And have worked throughout Memphis doing a lot of large public benefit projects. In 2004, we were the financial advisors on the FedEx Forum, and just have done a lot of things. Worked on Redbird Stadium back in the day, and have just had customers who were in the public finance business. But now I'm blessed, and my territory has increased. I prayed for increase, and territory has increased, and we're at TVA, and so we have an opportunity to help provide information and to share with our community what will be one of the most important decisions this community makes in this decade and decades to come.
Well, let me first congratulate you on the opportunity of working with TVA, but for the audience, tell a little bit about TVA for the people who may not know about it. What is TVA?
Sure, in a nutshell, if we could. TVA was formed through the 1933 TVA Act. So just to step back, when America was not electrified, there was not electricity, and so you had Senator Norris and also FDR came together, Franklin Delano Roosevelt came together, and they had this concept of how we could look at this 7-state region, the 7 contiguous states in Tennessee, and look at what we could do to, 1, control river navigation, number 2, look at economic development, and thirdly, we look at the environment and also electricity, providing electricity to both the citizens and the businesses of what we call the Tennessee Valley. So we have served Memphis for the better part of over 86, 87 years coming up in terms of the city of Memphis, and this community is one of our longest communities that we have served in terms of providing electric power. We generate the electricity and we transmit it to MLGW, and we support MLGW as they distribute. We provide the transmission services.
So I know we talked about TVA, and for many reasons, there are a lot of acronyms. I know the company I used to work for, I'm now retired, but we have a lot of acronyms. And so TVA represents what?
Tennessee Valley Authority.
Okay, and then what is your role at TVA?
So my role is a regional vice president. And let me step back just another step. I did say that it was formed by an act of Congress So we are a federal agency, yet we do not receive any funds from the federal government. We generate all of our revenues through the services we provide.
Okay. So that means that at this point in time, you are the sole provider for electrical power?
We operate, as I said, we generate through our generation and transmission, and we serve over 153 local power companies. We call those LPCs. And we also have direct serve customers. Those will be large industrial customers. Examples would be, Lindy. There are several located around the community. We have, in the West region, we have approximately, soon to be 15, I think, coming. Blue Oval City is one. That will be a large industrial customer. The Ford project that we just announced back in November, which will be a tremendously large. We directly serve them. But the local power companies, examples would include, in our region, of course, MLGW, JE Jackson Electric Authority, Humboldt, Milam, Paris, Gibson County, Weakley County. It goes on. And then in Mississippi also, over here.
So how did TVA become the sole provider of electrical power and national gas for Memphis?
So in the TVA Act, we have what's called the fence. And so the fence creates literally that. We cannot sell power outside of the fence, nor can any other organization sell power within the fence.
So is that regulated by?
By the United States Congress. That is the act that I just stated, the 1933 TVA Act.
And so are there other competitors in that market?
In terms of generating electricity?
Yes.
No. There is, we are the sole provider of electricity generation in there.
Within that jurisdiction?
Within that, yes, within the fence.
So what is the RFP process?
So the RFP process is the request for proposals. And so all of our customers, we call the local power companies our customers, they have contracts. And so we support them if they want to look and explore opportunities to see if they can get better services. And so the RFP is where they have come together and they've asked other providers of generation and transmission, renewables, which would be solar, wind, hydro, that if they could come in and provide a lower cost or higher and better service, or whatever that may be.
There's been a lot of discussion with TVA being a power provider for this community. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, that whole discussion has been centered around cost savings.
Yes, sir.
What role, what do you see, how does that impact Memphis?
Well, first of all, let's look at this. And let's just look at it in terms of its basic components. The city of Memphis and Shelby County has the second lowest utility cost in the nation, the first being Austin, Texas, of a city of this size. So we have some of the lowest, if you will, the lowest cost. And that is because of what we're able to do through our integrated system of how we generate and how we operate our generation of electricity.
So are you saying that the citizens of Shelby County,
yes, sir,
Memphis proper,
yes, sir,
has the lowest rates
yes,
in
sir,
comparison to others like cities?
In comparison to peer cities of equal size throughout the country. We have the second, and that is based upon MLGW's own research, not our research.
Because the citizens don't know that. So how do we get that message out there?
Well, that's why I thanked you when you first introduced me, because it's important, it's imperative for us to be out and to talk to people. We're very good at providing the generation of electricity, economic development, protecting the environment. You can't be, as you're doing all those things, maybe we're not so good at telling our own story, admittedly.
So what would it look like if Memphis went with another power provider?
If Memphis went with another power provider, I'm going to take a deep breath. Chaos, bedlam, No. If you look at, let's look at the current environment that we're in right now. We have tremendous supply side issues. You mentioned you just recently retired. Congratulations on your retirement from another company. But supply side issues. You have, that's right now, if you looked at what it would take to, according to what was the IRP, and that was the Integrated Resource Plan. And I don't want to throw a whole lot of acronyms at you, but it's important that we do speak about this. So you had a group of people come together and they hired a bunch of consultants and they said, okay, what would we need in order to duplicate what we currently do, meaning we TVA. So we currently have one plant here located, which is the Allen gas plant, the Allen combined cycle. We built that plant, it came online in 2018. That plant at that point in time cost $850 million. So if you look at compounded inflation right now today, that same plant, if you were talking about it in terms of car, so it would probably cost you about 1.3 to 1.5 billion to build that same plant. So that's one. You would need two of those according to that integrated resource plan. That's what Siemens came up with and said. So let's put $3 billion on the table right there.
Okay.
Next up, you would have to have also additional transmission or generation that would come from somewhere else. So there are other systems that are contiguous, if you will, MISO being one. And MISO is located, they run from Minneapolis all the way down to New Orleans. So they've got systems running. You would have to connect to MISO 2 river connections, which we just happen to have the largest river in the United States just left of here. So you would have to run 2 rivers.
Are you talking about the Mississippi River?
The Mississippi River.
Okay.
You would have to run 2 river connections. You see those big towers out, those are 150 foot. You would have to have even larger towers to go across the Mississippi River. You would have to do the engineering. You would have, now coming back to those gas plants that I just mentioned, that you'd have to have 2 of those, you'd have to have them supplied by gas. So now coming back to the macroeconomic issues, gas prices right now, I think I looked at it, what is it, light Brent crude was popping around it was close to 120. That was yesterday. I was looking at Bloomberg. But then you've got natural gas, so you'd have to build natural gas pipelines to fuel those. Now remember what happened with the last time we tried to do a pipeline around here.
All right.
So we have to deal with that. So that's according to the IRP. Your initial question was what it would look like if we tried to leave. I'm just giving you the scenarios that people really haven't talked about, because we're going to go deep in this if you want to go deep about it. So next you'd have to run those river crossings. You'd have to get NEPA, which would be your EPA analysis to see if you could actually run those easements across. The environmentalists don't really like that too much. So how long is that going to take? And how much is it going to cost? And would you really be able
Well, ultimately, the consumer, the customer like myself,
Yes.
is wanting to make sure that there's a cost savings.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
That my utility bill is not going up,
Right.
but I'm maintaining good service or better service
Right.
as it relates to how I pay my utility bills
Right.
and what services I'm receiving, which MLGW, but MLGW is your customer.
That's our customer.
And so what we're concerned about is what are some of the most important issues that's facing this county from a TVA perspective.
You've got, first of all, you've got current inflation. You've got a war going on. You've got supply side issues. You've got just the flux of market conditions. There's a number of factors. And so all of those assumptions that were made in 2018 in economics, I remember my economics 101 class, ceteris paribus, all things being equal. If you go back, we can't do that. We can't just lock those things in time and then bring them forward to 2022, 2023, 2025 and say, okay, at that point in time, those same prices where people were betting that those were the savings that we could make. No, That's not what we have right now. It's out the window. So that's the biggest issue. If you're doing this to save money, there's no guarantee that you're going to save a dime.
But do you see costs going up?
When was the last time we saw costs going down in anything?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good question we need to ask. I mean, naturally, people are looking at how they can save money. They don't want to pay money.
Right.
They want to be able to save money. And so when we bring it into perspective and you have a competitor outside of TVA, just like right now we have Comcast, we have DirecTV, and so from a consumer standpoint, they're looking at how can I get the best service at a lower cost.
Yes, sir.
As with you being a company who look for other services to be provided.
Well,
so those are kind of things that we really want to get into, and let's take a moment. I'm going to come right back to the chairman perspective, and we'll get into more issues as it relates to TVA.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, and the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process.
I was about 14 years old.
At 14, you decided you were going to go in the radio.
14, ninth grader.
The KUDZUKIAN Network proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis, telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on the road to their ultimate success.
Went to arts and tried to do corporate America, became admin assistants, personal assistants. I've did so many different things. It's a zigzag.
We believe The Journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson, on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Perspective. This is Willie Brooks, Chairman of the Shelby County Commission, and with me is my guest, Mark Yates with TVA. Mark, can you just share with our audience, what do people need to know about the removal of coal ash from the Allen site, which is located here in Shelby County?
Thanks for the question. And that's a really good question, and it's a complicated topic, but let's get into it. So the coal ash is the product of at least 50 to 60 years of electricity, the residual, we call it CCR, and that's coal combustion residual. The CCR is that coal ash, and so fly ash is also known as. And so it was placed in two pits, or two ponds, if you will, coal ash ponds, on the old Allen fossil plant. And so TVA is the last entity to have, what you will, fee simple to that plant. And so that plant was originally constructed by MLGW. So they operated it for a period of years. Then TVA came in and TVA leased it for a period, and then we bought it. And so it sits in the port. So we looked at, going back to about a decade ago, how can we remediate this coal ash as it sits out there? And you've got 5 MOA partners, Memorandum of Agreement or Understanding. And that includes Shelby County Government, that includes TVA, the Port Commission, it also includes MLGW, and I think that's it, City of Memphis.
Okay.
City of Memphis is the last. So you've got 5. And so those are our partners. And as we came together, we said, okay, what is the best way to remediate that coal ash? Meaning to remove it safely. Let's remove it safely and store it and properly dispose of it. And so we went to TDEC, we got with TDEC, and we came up with a plan. And so that plan had to go through a process. And this is several years, and these are professionals, these are engineers, these are water specialists, these are people who are looking at, okay, how can we remediate, take this coal ash and place it? So we identified a site that is located in southeast Shelby County on Malone Road, in a route that would not be detrimental to the people. And we have specialized trucks that we are running to take that coal ash to those to the site, and so we have had various over 40 different community meetings to let the communities know, to let the people know, to let everybody know this is done in the full brightness of daylight. This is something that we've published, we've had public notices. Now, what I will give as one warranty is that during this process, we did have a pandemic, and we've been during a pandemic. So we continued to work, but we didn't have the ability to have those public meetings in person.
So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. When we talk about coal, what does coal do? I mean, kind of explain to us.
Okay, when you make...
what is it producing?
So the coal is burned to create heat. Heat then creates steam. Steam spins the turbines. The turbines create electromagnetic charges, which creates electricity.
Okay. So in essence, you're using coal to create electricity.
Yes, sir. Very simple. Yeah.
And so the ashes from that is what we're talking about. Once the coal burns, it leaves ash. You have to do something with the ashes. You got to do something, just like in your fireplace. When you have a fire, you've got ash from the wood still remaining. You still have coal. And so you got to go in there and remediate it. You got to take it out and put it somewhere. And that when you have your grill outside, let's use that example. You have charcoal, those bits, and the residue, the white and kind of chalky substance. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That is coal ash. That is partly what it is. So,
and there's no way that could be recycled.
Well, it can. There are some uses, and we've done some of that. We've done a tremendous amount of that in terms of wallboard, concrete, fillers, plastic type of materials. So we've looked at everything that we could do to safely remove it, but also we want to come back to this. We want to get it off. One of the things that's very important to us is, and we're not pointing fingers and placing blame on there, we've got 100 wells out there, over 100 wells that are monitoring the Memphis Sands aquifer to make sure that nothing is happening to that aquifer, which is our drinking water.
Absolutely. Which is the best water.
Which is the best water in the galactic universe. Okay?
And I agree, because I've been in other cities, and I can tell you,
no,
I have to have bottled water when I go to Chicago.
No, all around the world.
All around the world. But come to Memphis, drinking good water.
Bring me a tap. Bring me tap water.
Bring me tap water.
And I'm good.
And I am great.
I'm good, and that's why we look so good. So that's what we know. But and so we're very jealous about that. I'm extremely jealous, and I've unequivocally let my colleagues know that the aquifer is sacrosanct. You do not touch the aquifer. Let's not.
Well, I'm certainly, and I'm sure that the audience is appreciative for making sure that TVA is playing a role in making sure that we got good, clean water.
Yes. That
we all can drink, and to make sure that it's not contaminated.
No.
With what services are being provided. So I appreciate that.
No.
I want to take a little more opportunity to talk about what positive impact has TVA made in this community as it relates to the infrastructure and environmental sustainability. Because I think that's important, and if we can kind of share with the listening audience, what role is TVA playing in this community as it relates to infrastructure?
Well, if you look at infrastructure, let's talk about, let's come at it from an economic development standpoint, and then we can talk about education, and then we can just talk about overall infrastructure. One thing we do have, as I've mentioned before, we've got an over right now $1 billion gas plant in the community, and so it helps to generate the electricity that you and I are both using right now. That plant, the Allen Combined Cycle Plant. And if you look at that, you've got our specialists, my colleagues, the people I work with, the professionals, what we're doing in terms of how do we make sure that it's safe, it's reliable, and it's low cost. that is a key thing, and that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen overnight. These are decades and years of people understanding what it takes. So we've talked about the aquifer and protecting the aquifer and what we're doing in terms of the investment to make sure that site, that's over $500 million, well over $500 million that we're investing to make sure that port site comes back online for the economic development benefit to create jobs, to create industry. We've got a port, the Memphis port, which is a vital part. You look at what we're doing in Blue Oval City, and you've got over $5 billion worth of investment from Ford and SK International, and then what TVA is doing in terms of bringing the electricity to the site, but also those suppliers that will be coming around there. It's going to be an exponential, it's going to just expand outward.
So how many employees work for TVA in Memphis?
We've got currently about 90 employees. We went from having a coal plant that had a number of employees to a more efficient gas plant. But we've got 90 employees in Memphis, and in the West region, we've got close to 400. So if you come just west of the Tennessee River and go all the way up to, we've got 4 offices. We've got a Jackson office, a Memphis office, Starkville, and Tupelo.
Do you see expanding career opportunities here in the Memphis and Shelby County area?
Absolutely. We have opportunities for information technology. We have everything, accounting, finance, you name it. We'd like to go ahead and just have an anchor, put a sign on a building downtown. I've got, got our eye on a couple of buildings that we'd like to just throw that TVA logo on top of them. And just really that bright, pretty electricity showing. Yes, sir.
That would be great. I know several years ago, of course, I work for FedEx. Well, I'm retired from FedEx now, but several years ago, I had an opportunity. TVA offered me a job to come work for them in HR. Mm-hmm. And I elected to stay with FedEx.
Right.
But it really was a challenge. It was a hard decision for me to make, to leave. Mm-hmm. and go work for TVA. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it, and I stayed with the company that I just retired from. But those are opportunities that we'll continue looking for, is making sure that the money and resources that go out of this community stays in this community.
Yes.
And turns over 3 or 4 times in order to have an economic impact in this community. So one of the main things we want to make sure is, even though we are utilizing your services, we're paying for the costs, we want to make sure that employment opportunities exist here in Memphis and Shelby County.
Yes.
And with your leadership,
yes,
being in that role,
yes,
we're counting on you to make sure that you're directing some jobs back here to increase it from 90 to maybe to 180.
180, 200. I mean, there's no reason. We have, at TVA, there are jobs for everything. I mean, we have biologists, we have people that are, they're scientists, we have operators in the plants, we have, as I mentioned, the accountants, the finance, the information technology, and they can work from anywhere. And so people can work from where they are right now, in terms of technology. It's tremendous opportunity.
So in the current environment where majority of employees are working remotely, they're no longer working at the office space, then that provides an opportunity for TVA to expand where I don't have to come to Knoxville.
Right.
What's the other location?
Chattanooga. Nashville.
In Nashville. I can still be able to work right here in Memphis and Shelby County for opportunities that exist in TVA.
We're exploring. It's our productivity has been up during the pandemic in a lot of ways. People have expressed a desire to figure out how can we continue that, and it just works for a lot of us. Now, it doesn't work at a plant. You got to be at a plant.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's some of the in the transmission lines you got to be, but in terms of what we do, a lot of those jobs we're rethinking that, rethinking how we work.
Well, that's great because as we talk about job opportunities, we also want to make sure that we build a workforce.
Yes.
And we want to know about what programs exist here in Shelby County in terms of, our school system,
Sure.
where we can be prepared. You've talked about Blue Oval, so opportunities going to be existing there, and so we want to be able to connect the dots. And so I want to be able to share that with our audience, with your knowledge base, and we're going to talk about that on the next episode. Right now, I want to take this break and stay tuned for the Chairman's Perspective. Hey, again, this is Willie Brooks. We're right back with my guest, Mark Yates, Vice President of TVA. And Mark, as we talked about economic development, one of the things that I think a lot of our people would like to know is how can local minority and women-owned businesses work with TVA?
That's a great question. Just recently, here in February, we had a Supplier Diversity Fair, and we have spent close to, I want to say the number, I want to throw a number out, and if I'm corrected, that's okay. Close to $50 million. We won an award with the Mid-South Minority Business Consortium for being the top supplier or top partner, if you will, in the community this past year. So we work really hard to identify organizations and companies through our supply chain department in terms of looking at engineers, looking at construction trades, looking at professional services, just a number of things. And so we're constantly looking for minority. And in Memphis, when you talk minority, of course, you're talking black. So we're looking at, black owned organizations and how we can really do business with them and look for long-term partnerships. And during that supplier diversity event, we had a number of vendors give their testimonies. It was really compelling. It was interesting to see their stories and what we've been able to do, because we work hand in hand as partners with people.
Are there any particular programs that TVA offer for business to be aware of, how they may be able to engage and participate in the process? I know, like in Shelby County government, we just recently completed a disparity study to show how we're measuring what we do in terms of minority participation and how can we attract black businesses, black or brown, but more specifically, we're targeting black businesses,
Sure.
particularly when you look at the demographics of Memphis and Shelby County.
Yeah, we've got a partnership long term that we've had. I think it goes back to the 60s with the Tennessee Urban League, and that includes in the major Tennessee cities. Here locally, we've got at the Memphis Urban League, we're exploring ways. Some of the programs we have are our Home Uplift program, and I haven't mentioned that. Home Uplift, we just served our 500th home, where we go in and provide energy efficiency projects, if you will, windows, door thresholds, HVAC systems. We provide a set amount of money to go in, and you have to have contractors to actually do the work. And so that training is something that we've had in terms of training those contractors to do that work at a level standard that's acceptable to us. So that's one. We mentioned our School Uplift, which is another program. We just, as of last week, we had 2 grants that went to Power Center Academy. One for for 400,000, another for 100,000 to their different campuses. And that was for their HVAC system to help with some of their lighting and efficiencies to help them save on their utility costs. So we do a number of things like that. We've also got our STEM. So we talked about minority and what what are the programs, but there are a number of programs that we are engaged in, and we are vigorously looking to see how we can expand that and what are the things that we can do.
So to learn more about those programs, what can you direct the audiences to?
TVA.gov.
TVA.gov.
Yeah, I don't know the backslash Memphis. TVA.gov/Memphis, and you'll see everything.
You'll see the opportunities
it'll come
there.
up the Memphis page. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. And so I'd like to encourage the audience to go to the TVA.gov/Memphis, and you will see the opportunities that are available there.
A lot of the things we've talked about should be there.
Okay, because I think that's important. And then the programs, I know when you talk about black businesses and them having the resources and the support systems to get to that point. I know today when I was going through the disparity study, one of the things we was looking at was insurance, bonding. It becomes a big issue with black businesses. How does TVA look at that perspective?
Right. It depends upon the size of the project and what type of vendor you're looking at, whether it's professional services or if it's, if you've got something that's requiring that type of financial stability. If you're building out a power plant type of scenario and you're messing with you're putting in a cylinder that costs millions of dollars, then the job requires that type of capacity. So it's on a job-by-job basis, on a case-by-case.
So when you talk about career opportunities, how can students learn about the jobs and the entrepreneurship opportunities that exist in the industry? I mean, I know many times, and I know I participate in a lot of career days at school.
Yes.
And students have a challenge being exposed to a lot of opportunities. And one of the things that I see has been most effective is having internship programs where they can be engaged and exposed to the opportunities that exist.
We have a very robust internship program, and pretty much we have internships, plus we have the God, I can never get the word right because I never had one.
So let me ask you this: with the internship program available, what website do they need to go to?
Same website. It'll take you everywhere. And once you're there, if you'll just type jobs, and it'll list. You can find a list of all the active jobs. But internship, we also do have career fairs, career days too.
Okay.
So we've been active in that, and we're looking.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Is there anything that you would like to share with our viewers today regarding TVA or its current relationship with MLGNW?
Currently, stay tuned. We respect MLGW and what the management and what the city council and the mayor of Memphis, what they are doing. And we respect the process, and we're trusting the process. And so we hope at the end of the day that a lot of what we've talked about here will come out, and that reasonable people will understand. I had someone tell me here recently that you don't fix stuff that ain't broke, and this is not broken at all. It's actually flourishing, but we have to figure out just how to get the messaging out. And I'm so grateful for the time that you've invested in us to just hear us.
Well, thank you, and thank you for taking the opportunity to come and share with our viewers about TVA and the opportunities that exist. And we hope to continue this relationship. And I'd like to say to you, we'd like to have you back as we continue to talk about TVA, economic development, the whole utility process, because all of us are concerned about electricity and power, and we want to make sure that we're getting the best service and product for what we are paying for. And so again, thank you for being with us today, and again, this is Willie Brooks, the Chairman's Perspective.